kind of bat around.
I was going to say, not that you've thought about this or anything.
No, I've spent no time sat debating it for hours with my co-host.
Do you think like in our lifetime we'll ever know? I mean, like you look at the advancements and, all these things we didn't even talk about, how many years ago?
I think that the only way we would ever truly be able to find out what is going on is if there was a way to monetize it. Think about it, like, the government is probably more interested in UFOs because they realize, well, we can travel, there's money here. They're interested in atomic energy because there's money there. Like, where's the money in figuring out, are ghosts real? Aside from making TV shows for Discovery Plus.
Exactly. And keeping Jack Osbourne and Jack Osbourne's haunted house on for many years to come.
Exactly.
Did you, by doing this show, like, did any new memories come out by going back to your childhood home where you're like, oh, wait, I didn't remember that, or just something that you were aware of? You know
what actually did come up, which it wasn't, there was nothing that I was like, oh, like earth shattering like that. But what did happen was meeting people and finding out information about the house that I had no idea. The house was actually, and that we had no idea until March of this year, that house used to be, as they called it, a lunatic asylum. And it was a mental health clinic for young girls until World War I. So from it was from 1900 something until 1917.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, and obviously I'm joking, but is the irony lost on you that the son of the Prince of Darkness, that this is the house and that this is what you do for your life now? I mean, is that irony lost on you?
Perhaps. It's funny, I never think of it because my dad is such, when my dad's at home, he is about as Prince's darkness as a bunny rabbit. He's just, he's not one that, necessarily leans too far into this stuff. He is into his UFOs, he loves watching UFO documentaries, and anytime there's an article in the press about, recently released documentation or footage, he's always sending it to me. Oh, have you seen this? So that's where he really, as far as the paranormal goes, UFOs is his cup of tea.
Are Kelly and your mother into this? And what do they think about the fact that because you have done a lot of other shows, like you said, that's all led you here to Discovery. So Kelly was a big she used to just make jokes. She's like, it's just, am I allowed to swear? Yeah. She's like, it's just a bunch of fucking nerds playing with trinkets, ghost hunting dorky stuff. And I took her on a ghost hunt. We did about 2 years ago. We went to this place in LA called Heritage Square, and it freaked her out so much. And the experiences that we had were so absolutely crazy. She's like a full-blown believer now. She's like, there is no way. And she was literally only doing it because it was a bit of a payday. And going into it, she was like, all right, whatever, I'll do a job. And she's like, and so she's always like, when are we doing another one? When are we doing another one? I'm like, you're pregnant? I don't think ghost hunting while pregnant is necessarily recommended. I mean, is that what you say to the naysayers? Because look, there's I've had a lot of people on the show. I've had famous mediums and psychics. And I mean, is that what you say to the naysayers? Come with me on a ghost hunt the way Kelly did? And I also say this, I'm like, okay, you're saying it's not a ghost, then what is it? I can tell you what it isn't all day long. Then tell me what it is, because that millions of people have had these experiences. And you go back through history, yes, you go back to ancient Egypt or ancient Greece, and they wrote stories of crazy mystical creatures and dragons and, gods from the sky. But they also wrote stories about ghosts. Now, over time, we know that dragons aren't probably real and definitely not real. I mean, dinosaurs, you could argue, maybe there was a leftover dinosaur 5,000-6,000 years ago. But we know that a lot of that stuff was just campfire stories, yet we still can't disprove ghost stories. They've always been told. So what is that? Why are people having these experiences? Why are people, having, seeing things, watching things move?
some people experience possessions. I mean, you talk to someone in the Catholic Church, and they'll tell you that there are more, there's now more the occurrences of, as the Catholic Church kind of documents it, and trust me, I don't put a whole lot of faith in the Catholic Church, but their documentation of what they deem to be a legit demonic possession, it's like just going through the roof with the amount. They've actually like ramped up the amount of exorcists that they are like putting through their exorcism school, because it's such a common occurrence now. So you're like, okay, what is that? It can't all be mental health. So there is some, there are some things which I just don't, I can't immediately just disregard, because I don't think there's enough evidence to disregard it as just something not, just some weird thing that could be explained.
Right. Like everything can't be an occurrence. And to your point with that story with Kelly, I mean, there were two of you that have similar. Does anything scare you, like through this show, being on Discovery?
God,
yeah. Yes.
I am not like I'm not the guy that's like, oh, I'll charge right on in there, I'm not scared. I'm the guy that gets pretty freaked out. Like when I do a few paranormal shows for travel, and one of my co-hosts is a woman named Katrina Weidman, and she has bigger balls than I do. She'll go somewhere by herself and hang out and just be like, yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, I want to go home. I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And she's just like, all right, I'm going to go in, call me in an hour, and then I'll come out. And you're like, no.
Especially going by yourself. No, thank you.
Yeah, because then your mind starts playing tricks with you.
Well, like you said, you've been on a lot of other TV shows. When you look back to the beginning of your TV career on the Osbournes, like, do you remember that time well, or does that just seem like, who was that? Yes.
I remember it very well. I mean, it was such a crazy time. And it was also like a really cool, fun time to be kind of doing entertainment back then. There wasn't the volume of, there was, you had cable, you had satellite TV, and now there was no YouTube stars, there was no Instagram, TikTok, there was none of this stuff. So it was a very small kind of community of people working in entertainment back then. It just was. And it was fun. I used to go out all the time, there was always something going on in LA. I got to meet some really amazing people, go to some really kind of cool places. And it was great. I mean, there was some shitty times. It's tough to, it was like for a time I got really resentful at, like, the fact that I was from 15 to 14. Those are not anyone's glamorous years at all. Like, I don't care who you are. 15 to 14 is a really awkward time in someone's life. So having a lot of kind of exposure